According to Universal Park News Today on X, there is a rumor quickly circulating from within Universal Orlando that the Fast and Furious supercharged attraction will be closing in August. And yes, that is the newer attraction that just opened up in 2018. The word on the street is that the attraction will be closing down sometime in August and remain closed throughout the Halloween Horror Nights season. So what does this mean for the future of the park? And there is one simple solution for Universal to turn their worst attraction in recent memory into one of their best that would also give studios a massive new roller coaster. My name is Brandon and welcome to Theme Park Predictions. I'm really glad you're here. I have a lot to go over, so now let's get into this. What does it mean for the Fast and Furious attraction if it closes for 3 months? Now, during Halloween Horror Nights, the park uses the Fast and Furious queue line, so when USF is open during the day, the Fast and Furious attraction, is open for park guests. They just don't go to the regular queue line. And then at nighttime, the Fast and Furious attraction is closed and the Haunted House takes place in the queue line, which is kind of odd since this is a newer attraction and 2018 really isn't that long ago. But we have seen since COVID, a lot of things have changed with this attraction where it's not as good as it once was, and that's really saying something because it was never that good to begin with. And I, for one, I don't know about you, but I prefer Disaster over Fast and Furious. Don't hate me on that, but I just feel like that ride with The Rock and everything else was just more fun. But Universal spent a ton of money on this attraction, and that's a massive building that houses the attraction. So there's a lot of interesting things that Universal could do with this if they wanted to. Now, for all we know, Universal could simply reopen the ride come November and then keep it open from November through August, and that could be like that for the next 5 to 10 years. Who knows? But here's what I think is going on. It's not a coincidence that this rumor started right after the permits were found for Universal to be building 2 new sprung tents behind the Men in Black attraction and the other sprung tents for the Halloween Horror Nights. So my main question is, and maybe some of you know, will the original sprung tents be used for Halloween Horror Night houses, or are they just going to get relocated to this area as you see right here? I personally think the plan is at this moment to use all 4 sprung tents for haunted houses, which is really intriguing because I don't think they're going to up the amount of haunted houses. I still think they'll keep it around 9 or 10 different ones, but this could free up the Fast and Furious queue line for something even larger in the future. It's also been reported about a month ago that Universal has plans to not renew the Simpsons attraction licensing. So by 2028 or 2029, one of the two, I believe, that ride will be no longer at the park. And it's rumored as of right now that this attraction will get replaced with a ride that will be themed to the Pokemon series. So it appears as of right now that potentially Universal Studios Florida has their eyes on axing 2 major attractions, both the Fast and Furious attraction as well as the Simpsons themed ride. But the good news is, I could really see Universal keeping the Fast and Furious theme for a brand new attraction that could repurpose the building that they've already built for the ride in 2018 and quite possibly make it one of the best attractions that you can find at Universal Orlando Resort. And for more on that, we have to head over to Universal Studios Hollywood to take a look at what they're doing for their Project 2025, which is the brand new multi-launch coaster that is themed to the Fast and Furious franchise. Now, typically as of late, Universal's hitting home runs with pretty much every single attraction that they're debuting in the parks, except for Fast and Furious. That one was pretty much a strikeout. So I really feel like it would make sense for the park to call up Intamin, since we all know that Universal loves working with Intamin, and have them design an indoor and outdoor coaster for Universal Studios Florida that's going to feature the same interesting and intriguing seats and trains that are going to open up on the Hollywood version. Now, that new coaster is rumored to be opening up with spinning or rotating seats, and that is really exciting, and I could very well see something like that opening up at Universal Studios Florida very soon. and it really does make sense. And just so you can see how Intamin and Universal could design a coaster that would fit beautifully within Universal Studios Florida, here's my design that I came up with. And as you can see, the Fast and Furious building will stay untouched, and the new coaster would feature the first half of the ride's layout indoors and traveling at high speeds, and feature a lot of turns as well as theming elements. And then the train hits the second launch, and that is where the layout travels outside of the building. And the first element that you're going to experience is the bunny hop as the train travels faster and faster. Once the train reaches the max speed of 65 miles an hour, you are then going to enter a 120-foot tall emblem inversion, which would be the ride's only inversion. And as you can see, this element's kind of placed behind the New York section of the park, really kind of creating a mystery as to what happens behind the buildings. And then the next element is a 60-foot tall airtime hill that leads into a 100-foot tall larger airtime hill that goes over the buildings as you see, and over the midway, then onto the lagoon. From there, you're going to enter a 25-foot tall speed hill that's located right in front of the Richard's Burger Company building. Now just imagine eating a delicious cheeseburger and having this new coaster fly right next to you over the lagoon. I'm all for that. I think that'll be a great experience. Then after the speed hill, riders are faced with an 85-foot tall outward banked airtime hill that then travels back over the midway as you transition into another 60-foot tall outward banked airtime hill facing the opposite direction as the first one. After this airtime moment, the train then enters the building again. Now you're probably thinking that this ride isn't very long, but remember, the first half of the coaster will be located indoors and can feature some dark ride segments as well as a first launch and some really cool theming elements to really feel like you're going even faster than what you really are. Then the ride hits the second launch that brings you outside for the second half of the coaster. One thing for sure is Universal Studios Florida really desperately needs that standout attraction that's going to bring guests to that park besides Diagon Alley, because once Epic Universe opens, Islands of Adventure you have Velocicoaster, Hagrid's, and the Incredible Hulk. In Universal Studios you have Diagon Alley and maybe the Mummy. I love the Mummy, but is that ride alone enough to bring people to that park? I just feel like that Universal Studios is in a really interesting position because they're going to have to come up with ways to get people to come to that park, so that way it's not going to be the least busiest park out of the three. And by building a new Fast and Furious coaster that would open up in 2026, maybe 2027, that's going to be much like the one in Hollywood to open up right here at USF would be the best case scenario, because this ride would really change the footprint and the landscape of Universal Studios Florida forever. So I don't know about you, but I'm rather intrigued by the future of Universal Studios Florida and what does Universal have planned for the Fast and Furious attraction as well as the park in the future. Now if you are planning a trip to Universal Orlando, then you have to watch this video right here where I share with you everything you need to know about the Express Pass. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on that video. So what are your thoughts regarding my Fast and Furious coaster creation for USF? And what are your predictions for the park? You know what to do. Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to smile today, think positive, and keep riding coasters.